Welcome back to another episode of the KBD podcast. Elliot, back again.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
I wish you the best for 2025.
So you're just saying you spent it in the hotel room.
In bed, yes. not
Not in a good way.
Not the spicy, naughty way. I was dying. That's spicy, I guess. It was horrible, man. I was so sick.
So we'll get right into it. But so 2025.
There's going to be a lot to cover this year.
Yeah, there is. I think we're in for like a really, really, really rocky road in the markets. I think we're in for a rocky road politically. It's going to be, we got some stuff going on in the U.S., some very suspicious terrorist attacks. I don't know too much about it, but we can kind of touch on that, offer opinions for what's going on and what was just in the news. We got in Canadian politics, who the hell knows what's going to happen in Canadian politics right now, because is Justin Trudeau going to step down? Is there going to be a vote of non-confidence? Are we going to have to wait all the way until November to have an election? Are we going to have an election in March? We don't know right now, and they're not back until the end of January, I think.
Yeah, so it's like January 27th. What happens, though? Because this theory is just kind of came to me, and I'm like, shit, that would be the worst case scenario. What if he prorogues Parliament?
What does that mean, prorogue? I don't know what that means.
Basically shut it down. He's allowed to just like send everyone off and be like, the Parliament is prorogued, which means like shut down. It's his, I guess, I don't want to say right. Well, it's his right. It's his power.
He would do that.
He could do that. That would allow him to just continue to hold power.
How long could he shut it down for?
That I don't know. But the thing is this, then you enter a little bit of it could be a constitutional crisis, because there is a way to reopen Parliament, and that would be through the Governor General. But, you know, the GG, the Governor General, likes to normally stay outside of that, right? But it's also their constitutional duty to make sure that there's a functioning government in place. So she could just force Parliament to come back together. But the problem is, if Parliament's open, what's going to happen? A vote of non-confidence. So,
well,
probably.
Assuming Daigneault does what he says this time.
Yeah,
And-
which could change.
Well, that could totally change. Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking too, if I'm Justin Trudeau and I'm thinking about what to do while I'm on vacation in Whistler or wherever the hell he is, Red Deer, I'm gonna go, okay, what do I have to give this guy? And I'm basically just gonna offer like a blank sheet. All right, what do you want? I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
To basically just prop me up for another 6 months or 8 months.
That's what he wants. I honestly, like, I saw this video, man. Maybe it's not nice to say, but I saw a video of Margaret Trudeau, his mother.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've
it's
seen
been
that one
floating
circulate.
around.
Yeah. And it's just, you kind of realize where the cuckoo comes from. You know, you kind of get it.
Yeah, she was wild. I think she was more of I don't know her at all. My first impression of her was, and I'm trying to look at it objectively, not just because I dislike Justin Trudeau. Looking at it objectively, I think she was kind of a free spirit.
Yeah.
And,
a little hippie, yay.
Yeah, a little hippie. She said herself that she was unfaithful to Elliot Trudeau. That's the reason why they got divorced back in the day. This is her saying that.
Yeah.
There's rumors that she slept with the entire Rolling Stones one night.
To fucking
Yeah,
ran a
back-
train
back
on
in
it.
the day.
Back
Yeah.
in the day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. The one thing I would be surprised that she did not have a little escapade with Fidel.
I mean, it's possible. She liked to have fun.
The resemblance is uncanny.
Yeah.
Let's be like, without getting into conspiracy theories here, but the resemblance between young Fidel Castro and Justin Trudeau is uncanny.
Yeah.
He looks a lot more like Fidel than he does his father. So
Yeah.
put it that way.
You're not wrong there.
Doesn't mean anything, but
But for Margaret, I thought you were going to say Margaret Trudeau, but Margaret Thatcher. But
I love that woman though.
Yeah,
the
she's
Iron
great.
Lady.
But yeah, Margaret Trudeau, you can kind of, it looked like she liked to have a lot of fun. But so yeah, we'll get into this stuff for the new year. Taxes. So this is on everyone's mind right now. And it's like, I can't put myself, man, it's like, when is this going to stop? When are they going to stop increasing taxes?
They won't.
And yeah, they will not stop. So we're going to get into all of the taxes this year that the federal government is going to be increasing. We're going to talk a little bit about municipal politics or municipal taxes, I guess, when it comes to real estate. Transfer payments. So there's this interesting graph put out by Canada.ca for 2025, 2026 equalization payments. So what's coming up? Very, very, very interesting. And I have some very, very, very real news, I guess, and how hypocritical I find it for some provinces to critique or criticize how other provinces make their money. And yet, so let's refer to today with the climate ideology. So they'll criticize other provinces for making their money off of energy, but they have no problem taking the money in a transfer payment. So I find that quite hypocritical. Well, I think people are going to know what that is. But yeah, where do you want to start? Where do you want to get started?
I mean, fuck, may as well start with the equalization payment.
Yeah, okay, so here we'll start.
What's keeping our country together, clearly?
So as everyone knows, in a federal system for equalization payments, the rich provinces pay the poorer provinces. It's always been like this. So, and there's I think this started back in 1957, I want to say. And so back in the day, this is actually just like a little history note or history lesson, I guess you could say. So back in the day, when the separatist movement started in Quebec, we've talked about this before, I had a lot more sympathy to the reasoning behind it back then, because Quebec was one of the richer provinces and they were the ones that were actually giving transfer payments to, they were a net donor of transfer payments as opposed to being a net recipient. Today, it's not the case. They're a net recipient. So back then, I kind of understand if I was a Quebecois going, you know what? I have a completely different culture. I have a different language. We have not significantly different values, but a little bit different. And yet we just keep like giving all this money to other provinces. What do we get out of this? So we're not going to get into that today, but I understand the logic back then. Today, it's a lot different. So transfer payments. So this year, British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan were the ones who were giving money to other provinces. So they gave.
What else is new?
Yeah. So the West giving it to the East and the rest of Canada. 4.7 billion Manitoba received. 546 million Ontario received. 13.6 billion Quebec received, the biggest by far, and I believe the biggest per capita as well. So just to put this into context, 546 million Ontario received. They're also double the population of Quebec. We got 13.6 billion. We're half the population of Ontario. And I just find this very funny, and I understand the fact why Albertans and Daniel Smith in particular, why they are frustrated with this. What's the biggest export of British Columbia?
Coal, baby.
And what's the biggest export of Alberta?
Oil, baby.
And I didn't know this. Saskatchewan's biggest export, actually, I thought it was going to be wheat or food or something. I thought for sure.
Fucking boredom, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so their biggest export happens to be crude petroleum oils. That's in first place. And potassium chloride in second place. And potassium chloride is one of the main ingredients for fertilizer, which they are also trying to attack because apparently it's bad for the environment. So you have the three richest provinces and their biggest exports being energy. They're the ones giving all the money to the other provinces of Canada.
Yep.
And the other provinces of Canada have the audacity to lecture the West about how they need to be more green.
It's like, it's even more than that. Remember, we wanted to build a pipeline that went through Quebec to refineries, right? To refine the oil from Alberta. Well, same thing. We said no to that. No, of course not. We don't want that. But baby, we need the money. Yeah. This province needs the money.
It's like, it blows my mind. And so just for the Quebecers out there, and we can get into this a little bit as well, if the PQ, Parti Québécois, are most likely going to win the next election for the provincially.
Yeah.
There's most likely going to be a referendum to separate.
Do you think that?
I think so, because I feel like it's almost part of the PQ's mandate now.
Yeah, but under Marois, there was no such thing. And that was what, like 10 years ago?
I thought there was a referendum with Marois.
No,
there wasn't? She didn't do it?
The last referendum was 95.
Okay.
That's the one that Quebec nearly won.
I'm just saying, though, the PQ, typically speaking, like no other party has ever had a referendum. It's always been the PQ.
Yes, 100. That's true.
So if the PQ and they want to have Quebec sovereignty. So anyways, the point I'm trying to make is if Quebec is receiving this much money, we're not self-sufficient for a wide variety of reasons. If I'm a Quebecer, and especially if I'm a Quebecer that has money, the last thing I would want to do is separate from Canada, because guess what? If you got a bit of money, they're going to come after your money. And the government's already coming after piles and piles of money, whether it's federally, provincially, municipally. Yeah. So, but what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the first thing that the PQ does say, though, to justify the whole financial struggle of, separating, they're going to say that, but we're sending money, like people here, the citizens, are sending money to the federal government as well through taxes and whatnot. Now it's money that's going to be used by the provincial government or the new national government. So we'll have twice as much money. We don't need equalization payments. And to that, there's a certain reality. It's true because, look, even though we are a net, we are a net
recipient.
I was going to say benefiter. It's like, that's not. We netly benefit from it. There is also the question of, how much does the federal government waste of that money, et cetera, et cetera. Who the fuck knows? It's probably even worse in Quebec, to be quite honest with you. But I get what they're going to say with regards to that. I think if the federal government has the Bloc Québécois as the official opposition, which, lol, that's funny. Yeah. But it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it definitely could.
And then the PQ has some form of, strong majority in Quebec. Yeah, I think you could see a referendum. Do I think it's going to pass? Probably not, and I hope not.
Yeah.
But it could have. I rather the U.S. absorb Canada than Quebec become independent. But I digress. Now, for the equalization payment, I can tell you absolutely that people out west despise the Atlantic or the eastern provinces because of that. It's all they talk about. When I lived in Alberta and worked over there, we were so hated just by virtue of the fact that of those payments. And it's part of every butt of every joke, no matter what you ask, you'd be like, hey man, can you pass me the coffee over there? Like, what? I don't send you enough money already? It's like, yeah, I just want some coffee, man. I get why we have equalization payment in the federal system, but then you look at the U.S. And does the U.S. do the same thing? Is there such a thing as equalization payment in the
Good question. I don't think they
do. I don't think they do. It is a federation as well, but it's a little bit different. It's a republic. So states are sovereign in the U.S., whereas provinces here don't have quite the same sovereignty. I mean, every province doesn't have their own constitution, their own criminal code. So provinces are a little bit more tethered to the federal government here. As a system, look, I don't think it's working. It's pinning and pitting people against each other, which is never good, by the way, for a country. You want a country to be unified, not divided. And most importantly, it's also used politically between provinces to kind of, get brownie points. But the usual suspect, it's going to be, the more woke or more liberal or left-leaning provinces out east wanting their own kind of their own agenda to be pushed, and the richer, Western, more conservative provinces forking the bill and yet being told that they're assholes for it.
But like, at what point does the straw break the camel's back? Like, I think we're getting towards that point.
It's
we're at the point right now, and I honestly believe this. If it doesn't look like it's going to happen according to the polls, but I don't know, something happens. Pierre Poilievre gets in a bad accident, he dies. They don't have a good leader. Yeah. Who knows? Let's just say the Conservatives don't win the next federal election. I could see, especially if the Liberals end up winning, or even the NDP, I could see Alberta going like, all right, that's enough, and to actually start to take matters into their own hands, where they're going to say enough is enough. We are going to start the process of having our own referendum. I could actually see a situation where that happens. Right now, the fact that the Conservatives are significantly up in the polls, I think, and typically speaking, like a lot of prime ministers, they'll get anywhere from 6 to 8 or 9 years, let's say, in power. So if we have 8 years in power of a Conservative government, they're obviously going to be very happy with that. Pierre Poilievre is a guy from the West. He's from Alberta, so that's another. I think when it's your hometown, you're probably going to be more likely to just do like little favors here and there.
Could be, yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why also Justin Trudeau, he does have a soft spot for Quebec. I mean, he grew up in Outremont. I think he lived in Ottawa for a while, but like, he's an Outremont boy. Yeah. He went to didn't he go to Brébeuf? Anyways,
I went to some.
Yeah.
He mostly grew up in Montreal.
Yeah, and so he went to he spoke French. He grew up in like he's bilingual, but so. I don't know. It's like we're at a point right now where a lot of Canadians were not happy, and in particular the West. And I just want to go back to that main point. It's always, we seem to be harping on this, but it's like, this is just the reality. And one of the things for this podcast, I try not to be, at the end of the day, I'm a businessman, and like Michael Jordan always says, he sells shoes to Republicans and Democrats, so he doesn't want to offer too many opinions. But I'm just trying to bang my fist on the table so that more Canadians recognize the reality of how important energy is in Canada. And it's like, it really is important. It's propping up our dollar. It funds our welfare state. And yes, do we have to eventually get to renewable energies eventually? Yes. But if you look at solar, I was listening to this podcast.
But you say yes. Why?
It's
Why?
like, no,
I feel like this is exactly what's happening. Even people now are just, it's the narrative. We have to get to renewable. But why?
Whether we do or don't, you're playing devil's advocate, and that's a great question to ask. Whether we do or don't in Canada places like China and India do not care, and they are going to emit a lot more CO2, a lot more pollution into the air than we ever will.
Yeah.
And so if we can export our cleaner energy, and the example I always give, if we were to take, BC's biggest export, coal, and that's going up. Why is it going up? The middle class in China is having upward mobility. When people have upward mobility, they consume energy. You have to watch your TV, you have to get a car, you have to put gas in your car. There's all these things they have to do. So we have an AI boom. We need energy. And so they need energy. They can't find enough of it, especially with the AI boom. So they're getting it wherever they can. If they're going to burn coal, that is twice as dirty as natural gas. If we can frack here in Canada, take out the natural gas, extract it in a cleaner way than China or India ever will, export it over to there, that's less CO2 in the aggregate for the world. And so this is like, I just feel like we have this mentality of just don't do it here. Don't burn the energy here. Like, we'll import the energy if we have to, just we don't want to extract it here.
It's that NIMBY mentality, right?
Yes.
Not in my backyard.
Yes.
One of the same reason we have a housing crisis. Well, it's one of the variables of the housing crisis, but nobody wants multi-stories or multi-family buildings near their backyards.
No.
There's no perfect solution. In the end, when it comes to energy, you have the choice between some form of risk. And by the way, the risk is overblown, but still some risk, but it's clean energy and it produces enough. You have dirty energy, but it's on demand and it's cheap and it's efficient. And you have clean energy, which is oftentimes not abundant enough at peaks. It's capricious, meaning like it really depends on the weather or the sun or certain things that are out of human control.
Like solar, for example.
Solar is one of them. Wind is another one of them. Even you have like wave power. What's it called?
It's not hydro. It's I know what you're talking about though. But yeah.
Regardless, there's one country that actually has a pretty good source of energy, but it's geothermal. It's Iceland. A lot of their energy comes from geothermal. That's great, but they're a freaking, live active volcano. You know what I mean? Like, sure. But you can't have all three. So here we are in Canada as a whole. We don't want fossil fuel. We don't want coal, natural gas, or oil because we think it's dirty. Sure. We don't want nuclear because we think it's risky. I mean, Quebec had 2 nuclear power plants, Gentil and Deux. We closed them down. See, nuclear, in my humble opinion, is one of the best energy you could ever ask for.
Fun fact, and I'll give credit to the Ontario government, and I don't know which government did this, 60% of Ontario is grid is powered by nuclear.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Nuclear is great.
Yes, but this is the part. So this is where we get caught. Let's talk about the ideology, the climate ideology. I keep calling it because the people in power, they're I wouldn't call them politicians. They're ideologues.
Yeah.
And even people, former members of the Liberal Party, have said they'll say it a little nicer than me, but they'll explicitly say, yeah, the current administration is definitely more ideological than your classical Liberal Party of Canada. They're definitely for,
yes.
And so
by a long shot.
Yeah, by a long shot. So it's like you get a guy like Stephen Guilbeault, and he's always humming, he's always changing his tune and saying different things. If you guys actually care about the environment, this is the problem I have. If you care about the environment, number one, like you just said, why aren't we building more nuclear? That's the cleanest form.
Yep.
The technology is there. And number two, if we could export our natural gas, which in the aggregate, like same example, if we can export our natural gas to China and India, who are burning coal, and they're going to continue to increase that consumption and have the aggregate CO2 emissions of the world be lower, why wouldn't you want to do that? And this is the problem I have with the ideologues. Their argument fails at this point. And they just go, you don't know what we're talking about. We need to go to solar and cut out oil and cut out natural gas and cut out coal. That they just keep saying that. But then, and they don't care, my last point, they don't care about the common man, because if you were to do that today, in 50 years, maybe not, maybe the technology will be there. We'll be able to have 100% nuclear, 100% solar, and 100% wind. They say 50 years. Who knows if it's a little less or a little longer? Who knows? But right now, if we cut all this out, the cost of energy, like what's happening in Europe right now, is going to skyrocket. People can't live right now. So the common man cannot afford to live. We need cheap and abundant energy. And especially, that was my second to last point. My last point is in this AI race. In order to have the AI race, number one, you need to have the grid to be able to support it because it uses a lot of energy. And number two, you need to have cheap energy. It's going to be less expensive to actually invest in AI. So places like China, they have more abundant energy and they have less expensive energy compared to the United States. If we don't invest in cheap energy, we're also going to lose on that front. So that's my spiel. I'll let you go.
It's more than just cheap energy. It's also being able to deal with the peaks of the requirements of it. Daytime, we need less energy than nighttime. Well, not nighttime. I mean like evening time, right? Prime time, winter compared to summer.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, again, with solar, with green energies right now, is that it does not bode well with the peaks of demand. And oftentimes it has to be supplemented with coal or fossil fuels, whichever.
And I'll give a perfect example, just a quick one. In the UK, some days, I think it's 30% of the days or 40% of days, but some days the entire grid of the UK is powered by solar and wind. Some days, but then like you said, some days where there's no wind or no sun because of the clouds, then it's not. You need to supplement that. So,
to me, this entire thing is akin to DEI. So, and I'll explain to you why. It's instead of using the most rational, logical, and data-driven solution, right? Meritocracy, we go with ideology first. So, in a company, you will hire based on diversity, equity, and inclusion instead of who's just better suited for the job. And I mean, that is a great example of what's going on in Canada. When Trudeau came into power in 2015, first thing, I woke up and I'm like, shit's about to get pretty bad, and never could I have fathomed just how bad it really got, you know? But number two, one of his first decisions was what? We're gonna make a inclusive cabinet, right? A 50-50 cabinet. And I'll get why I'm talking about energy after that, and to me, I just looked at it. I remember I was at our office and I was with my staff, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? You know, what's the point? I don't care if the cabinet is 100% women. I don't care if the cabinet is 100% man. I have zero fucks to give. I want every minister of the crown to be the best damn possible candidate, period. There should be no other qualification than what is their skill set as a minister. I don't care about their sex at all. Well, we go back to energy. Again, what do we care about energy? It's efficiency, reliability, it's ease of access, and it's cost. That's it. For the rest, I don't give a fuck about where it comes from. If, for example, we're California and we have access to sun year round, there's not a lot of clouds because it's freaking deserted over there. By all means, if solar makes sense, go for it. Yeah. If you're, on the western coast of Ireland and it's windy as shit every day, and let me tell you, Ben, it is windy as shit every day, but put wind power, I don't care. But Quebec wind, what the fuck? We have hydroelectricity, it's amazing, and
natural gas,
it's great.
They don't want to do fracking here.
We don't want to do fracking.
Well, we'll take the money from the west.
That we will though. We will. It's like the blood diamond thing. We don't want to. No, but it is like blood diamond.
Well, it's dude, it's like the hypocrisy, man. It's like it's actually insane, the hypocrisy. And for us, I know I'm repeating myself, but I can't get over it. And when you actually start to see all the data, looking at just like these politicians and talking about how we need to be green, and we're not going to have it in our own backyard. We're not going to extract the natural gas from our own backyard. This is really bad for the environment. We care about the environment. We're green. You guys are the bad guys for extracting all of the oil and all the energy. But you know what? We'll take the money that you make on it. It's so hypocritical.
I know.
It's crazy.
And then on top of that, and this is why it works so well. The environment is a great boogeyman. And yes, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there, right?
Yeah.
The climate is changing. That I'll give you that.
Of course.
I'm not 1,000,000% certain or convinced yet that it is 100% led by human intervention. Okay.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, look, we've gone through ice ages and we've gone through, heightened temperatures on this planet several times. There's been cycles. A lot of it is driven by the sun, the greatest and singular source of energy in this entire freaking solar system. How much of a role do we play? Yeah, sure, we've been extracting a lot of carbon and dumping it in the atmosphere. Okay, so that probably has a role to play, but I'm not at a point where I'm just going to buy the salad that, unless we do something, we're dead by tomorrow, because every time the goalpost has been pushed around. I found this time, it was like a compendium of climate predictions that goes back 100 years, and they're all alarmist. At first, it was going to be a global cooling. Then after that, it was global warming.
There was I saw the front page of, I want to say, Time magazine. This is back from a 1975 edition, I think.
Yeah.
And they were saying, get ready for the ice age.
There you go.
So this is 50 years ago.
Spot on, right? Yeah. Then it became, I remember in our childhood, or like early teenagehood, it was global warming. That was the name of the game. Global warming, global warming. Now they don't even talk about that anymore. It's climate change.
Climate change, yeah.
So it's always something different. Al Gore has made so many predictions that ended up being bullshit. I mean, I was in Florida when it was supposed to be underwater. It was supposed to be underwater. I look at guys like Obama, who after leaving office purchased, waterfront property that would indeed be underwater and freaking,
a private jet.
Fucking, that's the best, of course. I love Leo that goes from country to country.
Just lecturing us in a private jet.
Lecturing us, but he's in this little fucking private jet. Anyways, so...
it's crazy.
But again, it's
the hypocrisy.
It's hypocrisy left and right.
Yeah.
So we go back to, we are... It's the good old, do what I say, know what I do. And then I got to go back to ask, why is it like that? Who stands to benefit? I don't necessarily believe in the alarmist mentality of climate change. If we can work towards a place where, we live in harmony with the planet, by all means. But do I think it's like critical level of we're going to die next day or like next year? No. Next decade? No. Next century? Probably not even. Not even that scared.
I'd say there's a much higher chance of having a nuclear war than dying by...
Probably.
Climate.
But then the problem is that people are easily scared and manipulated. We saw that, during the era. Yeah. The era that we cannot mention because we're gonna get taken down again.
Get demonetized. Not that we make any money.
No, we don't make not at all. Not yet. If you want to sponsor us,
Oh man, I don't want to get demonetized.
Shit, that's the beauty of it. But still, so during the era, so it's about fear mongering, and when people are scared for their lives, they're willing to do anything. I see to this day people saying, I'm willing to save the planet to get taxed even more. And first of all, I'm like, why do you want to get taxed more? But so when I look at how the elites, let's call them that, the elites or the government officials, the elites, how they conduct their life, and they're definitely not living to what they're preaching, I start wondering, okay, so is it really that, alarming? If their livelihood, if their quality of life, if their future, their perennity was truly at stake and at risk, they would be in the same boat as us, but they're not. So, and then it goes back, and we spoke a little bit last time, but who stands to benefit from a green shift, from a turn towards more renewable energy? And there's one country who is a great producer of, certain battery power and all lithium and whatnot. And rare earth metals. And I do think that they have a great propaganda machine, and they have bought or at least infiltrated or co-opted a lot of people around the world to push laws and to push narrative that will benefit their economy. So I go back to that. I don't think.
Okay, so that's because I was actually going to ask you that. So that's your theory on China. So because they have the best technology, do they have the resources in the ground? They have a lot of lithium?
Rare earth metals, yeah. So they're needed as well for battery powers.
And they have lithium?
That I don't know. I do think they have a...
Can you check that, Shem?
Yeah.
Who has the most lithium from what they've found?
For some reason, I think it's... I'm going to say on a limb right here, Australia has a huge deposit of lithium, but I'm not sure if that's what it is.
Which I think China will.
Chile.
Interesting. Okay.
Chile.
9.3 million metric tons.
Okay, so Chile does. But so basically just
second, Argentina,
China fourth. Okay.
That's huge. Okay.
So based off your theory is, because I want to make sure I understand your theory. So your theory right now is, or a possible theory, we'll call it, or conspiracy, whatever you want to call it. The fact that China has the best technology, leading technology in battery power, that they want other countries to turn to battery power because it's going to benefit them, because they can sell them their technology.
Economically, there's a lot of money to be made, a huge amount of money. When you consider, if you imagine a complete, because energy, and you've said it, you've rammed that point over and over again, it's so true. Energy is the cornerstone of our civilization. We need energy, right? As a matter of fact, it's one of the ways that we even categorize civilizations, the amount of energy they manage to harness from their planetary system. But right now, if the world's economy shifted from fossil fuel, which benefited the U.S., by the way, huge amount.
Yeah,
big time, more towards a green energy, green sources, which is electrically kind of powered, yeah, China would stand to benefit massively. And I think China wants to have that because their economy right now is, like it or not, it was very strong on manufacturing for a very long time, but now it's starting to falter slowly but surely. They need to diversify. They need to have a massive plan because, again, you look, what drives people? Power. The CCP is in power. They have a stronghold on China, but at the same time, their stronghold is weakening. The economy is not doing so good. People are having a hard time. The middle class, which was lifted out of poverty, now is struggling. They don't want to go back. And whenever an economy really truly falters, a government, a revolution, a shift in the gatekeepers of power tends to happen at the hands of the people. So they need to do something about it. And I think a shift, forcing the world to go towards green energy, would benefit their economy more than anyone else. And you can see that by the fact that, again, they are crazy emitters of greenhouse gas, of carbon dioxide, and all of the above. And yet, all the other countries are always told that they're the ones who have to fork up the bill. The Paris Agreement is just, we have to, cut down on our emissions, but China gets to continue to go unabated. And then in the meantime, we have to do this crazy shift, which again, economically, the net country, the country that benefits the most directly from that shift in the end is China. So I just go with the money. I've always been told follow the money, and it tends to lead to the answer most of the time.
Interesting. Moving on to taxes. All right. I got some numbers. You got some numbers too.
Oh, fuck yeah, baby.
So my TikTok and YouTube shorts have been blowing up with this stuff. So Canadians, buckle up. If you think it's bad now, just wait.
Ooh, fuck yeah.
All right. So here, I didn't know this. Fun fact. So the combined federal and provincial top tax rate is over 50% in every province except for Alberta, which is at 48%, and Saskatchewan, which is at 47.5%. This is one other thing that's going to go up, your Canadian pension plan. So it's up 56% from 2018. So let's say, for example, you're someone who's making $85,000 per year. Back in 2018, on top of that, you would pay $5,188. Half of that would be paid by the employer. Half of that would be paid by the employee. I checked this out on StatsCan. 2025, this is going to go up to $8,860. So when you want to go negotiate for a higher salary, just remember, well, number one, you're going to be paying more, and so is your employer. Carbon tax. Carbon tax, that's going up to 20 cents per liter. this damn tax. For why, I still don't know what this is for.
Yeah, but man, we get the carbon rebate. You make
Quebec doesn't get it, though.
I know Quebec doesn't. That's the joke, right? That's the one thing Trudeau always fucking hammers in.
Yeah, it's like
you're going to make more money that way.
8 out of 10 Canadians get more money, but people in Quebec, and I think there's a couple of other provinces as well, we don't get any money. We get nothing. It's not as high, so Quebec has a little bit of a lower carbon tax. Last time I checked, we were at 13 cents per liter, and I think the federal was at 17 cents per liter. But nonetheless, we still get carbon tax. We don't get anything back.
You're too rich anyways. You don't get to benefit from that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
they have their green slush fund where they're basically giving money. You can't make this stuff up.
Ever.
You collect all this money. Some say it's 500 million, some say it's 900 million, whatever it is. It's hundreds of millions of dollars that they're collecting in this carbon tax.
Yeah.
So you would think, like, hey, we're getting all this extra tax revenue. How about we cut taxes in other places because we have this new revenue fund? So they get all this money. They do give some of it back to some Canadians, but it drives up the cost of other things as well. The director general or whatever, the guy that actually keeps the federal government accountable based on their budget claims and stuff like that, said himself, no, Canadians are not, in fact, better off having a carbon tax. And so $400 million of this money, there's a lot of it that was given to let's say friends or friends of friends, where the MPs like Stephen Guilbeault had a financial interest in that company, and they were the ones to get the subsidies.
Follow the money,
so
baby.
That's one. Next thing, capital gains tax. So this actually went up a couple months ago, but it's technically not in force yet. But the CRA, they're collecting it anyways. The last, I found this very interesting because this hits me. Well, they all hit me. Every one of them. Digital services tax. So this is an interesting one too. 3% of revenue earned in Canada is going to be taxed. So let's say, for example, so I am a business. We're going to spend, let's say I spend $100,000 in Google ads. I have to pay an additional $3,000 on top of that $100,000. So the Canadian government is going to phrase it as, well, Google, they're making so much money, they need to pay more anyways. No, they're going to pass this cost on to me. So that's like this other fallacy. It's complete bullshit. So yeah, these are just a few of the taxes. And then we'll get into the development charge taxes right after this. But yeah, so, and you have everything worked out here, but I just want to say this again. This is going to come from more of a macroeconomic lens. Guys, I've said this before, you cannot tax your way to prosperity. This is getting dire. This is getting really bad. And we need to have a government that shrinks itself. Why? The biggest employer in Canada, the federal government. Like everywhere you go.
How wild is that?
It's crazy. You have in British Columbia, there's more bureaucrats than tradesmen. Like what? And then on top of that too, they outsource the. There was last year. It's in the billions. I forget the exact number. They outsource a lot of the work to consultants, anyways, like McKinsey.
Yeah.
Canada does this, so they've increased the headcount of people that work for the government. They've also significantly increased the amount of money they spend on consultants. For what? How does that add to productivity to anything? And then basically to fund this monstrosity, this monster, they need to just keep taxing people.
Yep.
That's the state of Canada right now. I'll let you get into your numbers as well, Elliot.
Well, it's because oftentimes people are going to say, yeah, but it's only the rich that get taxed so much.
That's not true.
And you know what? I decided to break it down. Some of these statistics are Canada-wide. Some are Ontario. Because it's damn fucking hard to get proper numbers on everything. It's like they go above and beyond to try to keep it hidden and secret. So the average income, the median income, in Canada is $55,000.
Household or per person?
Per
Okay,
person,
55.
right?
Okay.
$55,000. From that $55,000, you're going to have a combined provincial and federal income tax in Ontario here of $11,500. And Ontario numbers are good because it's, the biggest population of Canada anyways.
Yeah.
So you pay $11,500 in combined federal and provincial income tax. From there, you're going to pay $4,000 in CPP and EI, so Canadian Pension Plan and Employment Insurance. On top of that, we're in Canada. Most people have a car and need to drive. That's just a fucking reality. We're a huge country, huge landmass. A car is needed. It's not like in Europe where you can get by on public transport. We ain't got no public transport here, okay? Gas, and this one blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. The minimum tax on fuel in Quebec is 37 cents per liter. That is the minimum. It only goes up higher because there's a huge proportion that is a ratio of the price. But the minimum you will pay is 37 cents. That includes excise taxes, both federal and provincial. Montreal has a 3 cent for public transport.
Yeah.
Then you have QST and GST. So roughly, that's an extra $1,000 a year that you pay in taxes just on gas, just to be able to move about. And then on top of that, property taxes. Canada roughly average $5,000 a year for property taxes.
It's about 1% of the purchase price.
Yep.
Ish. It's different from municipality to municipality, but like ish.
Yeah. So right there, you're at $23,000 of taxes annually. So you went from $55,000 down to $23,000, right? So it gives you remaining $32,000 in your pocket. But wait, that's not your purchasing power quite yet. Because on top of that, that's going to be subjected to, in Quebec, 15% sales tax. In Ontario, it would be 13%, but roughly call it 13 to 15% sales tax, right? VAT for Europeans. So you're left at the end with $27,000 of purchasing power. So that is less than half of your income. And that's for the average Canadian. This is not you're rich and you're making millions of dollars, take your money and pay your fair fucking share. No, this is the average Canadian. At the end of the year is left with less than half of their income in purchasing power. So effectively here's what I'm going to do.
Plus inflation.
Plus inflation. But here, let's put it in basic terms that everyone fucking understands. You spent 6 months out of the year working for the government as a slave. That's what it is.
What was that stat back in the day when the Americans revolted?
It was a 2%. It was a 2% tax on stamp. So right now we are January 3rd, 2025. All right. So the average Canadian is going to be working till the end of June for free. How does that feel? How does that fucking feel?
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, it is.
But then, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, cool. What do you get for that? I mean, if, the reward, if the prize is worth the cost, by all means. But what do we get for that? What do we get from our government? A crumbling infrastructure, horrible healthcare. This one blew my mind because it really, it put the cherry on top just to see how bad things have gotten. When my son was born, I got a phone call from my grandmother. I think I told you this. Did I tell you that? No. So my grandmother called me to congratulate me. And she's like, okay, and the mother, how long she's going to stay in the hospital for? And I said, oh, it's 24 hours, and then she's discharged. And she's like, oh, back in my days, we stayed like 3-4 days to carry you. I can't believe it's only 24 hours. That's not enough for, a mother who just delivered a baby to be up and back in shape. I was like, yeah, well, welcome to our system. And then I was just like, wait, my grandmother lived better conditions than we do now with government systems and whatnot. And yet we pay much higher levels of taxes. It's only gone worse and worse and worse and worse. We have a housing crisis. We have a government that won't even freaking face its people. We have a crumbling army. The economy is going down to shitter. So in the end, is it really worth half of your year as a slave? And by the way, indentured servants back in the Middle Ages had to basically work for free, something like 10 to 15% of the year for their lords.
Yeah. The serfs back in the day, they would, I think they would pay 30%, and it depends on the country you lived in, but it would go up to about 30.
Yeah.
And
so we're worse off.
And the serfs were essentially considered slaves.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
And so they would give 30% back to the lord.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're well over 50.
We're over.
If you're in the highest tax bracket, so already your income's over 50, and then it's plus.
Yep.
And then to add, like I just said it earlier, but to add it on again, this inflation. So not to get too technical, because I'm going to save that for Bill, because he can explain this better than I can. But very interesting stat. So if you actually look at the cost of, I'm not sure if we talked about this last time. If you look at the cost of a house in, let's just take Vancouver. So yes, it's absorbently expensive. It's very expensive. No one can afford to live there. Priced in gold, it actually peaked in 2007. And if you actually look at the Canadian housing market, most of the Canadian housing market actually peaked priced in gold back in 2007. Now, this is a lot bigger than we are. This happens to do with the global monetary system, but I kind of just wanted to add this in. On top of all these taxes, there's two ways that you can get out of a big debt crisis. You can either inflate away the debt, which is what seems to be what the Americans are doing, or you can kind of default on the debt. So right now, Canada, the release valve for Canada is the currency. They're not going to let the bond market fall. They're going to let the basically, rates are going down. The central bank's going to come in, start buying more bonds to suppress the interest rates. That's not good for the currency. And they keep kind of tweaking the CPI numbers, and they keep playing with it and stuff like that. So if you ask someone, if you look at the CPI numbers for groceries, I think it was up 3 or 4%. No chance that the groceries are only up 3-4% last year. And they said it was up.
The tweaking
yes, and they said it was
basket.
up. Yeah, and they said it was up 27% since COVID or something. And just these ridiculous numbers that nobody believes. No. You're like, hold on, the groceries are double.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Since COVID, they're double.
Easily.
No one's going to dispute that fact. That the groceries are gotten way more expensive in Canada. And they'll keep telling us, oh, no, it's only 3 or 4%. So not only do we have all these taxes, the value that you have, the value of your dollar is dropping significantly too. And all that's going to happen. So for all those out there, like, well, what the hell can I do about this? You need to own assets. Easier said than done. But you have to have assets that are, especially when you go through an inflationary time, that are going to they're going to keep up during inflation. So if you own certain pieces of real estate, if you own the stock market, if you own a business, especially a business like insurance, I'm very happy to be working in insurance. When there's inflation and the cost of claims keeps rising 7, 8, 9, 10% every single year, the premium, exactly. So the premium. So I'm pegged. Sorry, I'm hedged. No, but they say that pegged to the dollar.
It's the proper term, but at the same time, we got some revelations coming in today.
They say that it's like gold. It's like gold used to be pegged to the dollar. It's a term. So I'm not getting pegged.
It's gonna come out in a newspaper.
Yeah, Curtis gets
Killen,
pegged.
President KBB
gets pegged. But yeah, and like this isn't just Canada, and this is the one thing with Pierre Poilievre when he talks about this. He's like, well, we're gonna stop inflation. We're gonna stop having We're going to stop all the central bank manipulation of the currency. It's not really up to him. It's kind of up to like the global monetary system, and the system itself has so much debt and no one knows what's going to happen next. Usually a war fixes this.
Or you just have a complete collapse of the hegemony of the leading empire.
Yeah.
And a new one arises.
And it's actually crazy, dude. This is no one ever talks about this. I'd love to see like a documentary, like a big study on this. It's a gold bug needs to do this. 1971 or 73, but early 70s, when Richard Nixon went off the gold standard.
Yeah.
The gap between the rich and the poor, since then, it freaking like the value of your dollar. It like we've had so many. Just the gap between the rich and poor has gotten massive since they did that.
It's bigger now than prior to the French Revolution, which was one of the leading factor of the revolution was the discrepancy between the poor and the rich.
So it's like, anyways, this has to do with like fiat currency and all this kind of stuff, and who the hell knows what's going to happen. But I just wanted to put that in. So on top of all these taxes, you have your dollar that's also being devalued at the same time. And the part, do we have full control over it? No. But the part where we do have a little bit of control over this is the deficits that we run every single year. So when there's big debt, like I said, the governments will monetize the debt. Monetize just means they'll inflate away the debt. So they'll print more money to basically make your dollar worth less. And governments have been doing this for a long time. And like any time they're going to basically go away from the gold standard, this always ends up happening because it's pegged to nothing. I said pegged again. But
that's proper though. It's not you getting pegged, it's the currency.
But like this is another thing. So some people are just because they don't understand. They're like, look, I don't make that much money. I can't pay my taxes. They're like, I can't afford anything. Yeah. So it's the inflation is a massive hidden tax that our government and all governments for that matter like to use.
And it breaks down eventually to social contract. Look, we've been sold. It breaks my heart as well because I think millennials and ultimately Zoomers as well, but millennials, we were lied to from head to toe. We were told go to school, stay in school, study, get a degree, and you'll have a good job, and you'll be able to take care of your family. You'll be able to buy a house, have kids, and live a normal, decent life.
It's been broken.
Absolutely broken. Yeah. The amount of people that are graduating with MBAs, for example, masters, and fucking to working at Starbucks. Even then, some people can't even find jobs at Starbucks. The economy is broken, and even with a decent job, you can't even afford to buy a house anymore. You just can't buy a house. Ultimately. And that's an interesting stat as well, the comparison of what it takes to the gold kind of ratio to buy a house as well. But you said something interesting. You need to own assets, right? So inflation, the only way to protect yourself from inflation, actually the only way to benefit from inflation is to own assets, but you need to be able to purchase those assets in the first place.
Yes.
And, the youth, they're coming into the world unless they inherit it. And most people don't inherit much, by the way, right? Well, you need to acquire that wealth. And if you're always chasing a faster or a further moving away goalpost, and that's what's happening with the inflation right now, it's just at a rate that's way too high. And can we bring it down? Well, we get to a point where, again, the debt becomes so high and so unserviceable where you can't raise taxes past a certain point. And the government's still trying to raise taxes even more, but we can't. We're at a point, we're literally at a breaking point right now. So what do? Well, you have to keep inflation. Or you have to
I would argue, we talked about this last time, and the graph, I forget what it was called, but like there's a certain point
the Laffer curve.
Yeah, and you get to a point where the taxing, yes, you can increase the rate, but you're taxing more of a smaller economy.
Yep.
So it actually, in the aggregate, ends up being less total tax revenue anyways.
It's hilarious
I think the sweet spot, typically speaking, and they've talked about this on the All In podcast, I think it's around like 22 or 23%. Where it's basically because if you have a lower tax rate, let's say at 22%, in the immediate short term, yes, it will be less, but in the long term, business will come over to your country. They're going to, hey, by the way, there's less taxes over there. Let's go over there. Yeah. So you're going to have new business investment into your country. And then the 22% tax, it'll just be 22%, which is lower than what it is now, but of more businesses.
Furthermore as well, you're going to have less evasion, like tax evasion. The reality is this. Yes. Once people are squeezed, and that's the whole principle of the Laffer curve, it's eventually you get to a point where people realize the risk reward is just greater on the reward side than the risk side of not paying your taxes, or at least avoiding paying a portion of your taxes. Most people are decent people. You know what? They're okay with providing a little bit of their hard work for society to function. That's fine. It just, again, gets to a point of a social contract. At which point is it just, you're taking advantage of me? At which point are you like, I'm a slave to this?
I have a funny story from today. Okay, so I was trying to set something up for on my Quest Trade account, and so I need the direct deposit form from my bank, and this is with TD. So I go onto my app, or I go on Google, say, how do I get my direct deposit form? I have the numbers, but like, no, you need to put the whole form. Okay, no problem. I go onto my app. And then it was never like this because I had to get one a couple months ago. This was not the case. So I go into the application and it has me fill out this whole consent form that the CRA they can if they want to anyways, but it was like this massive consent form for me to give all of my information away to the CRA. And so basically, essentially saying you can monitor everything that's going on in my bank account. And I didn't want to say yes to it, even though in reality they probably can. But it's like I couldn't even get the direct deposit form. Now I have to go in person, get it printed out. I'm going to scan it and send it over to them. So now I'm giving away. It's like they keep encroaching on our rights as citizens. And
I mean, you've taken a flight fairly recently, right? You know, the whole security apparatus around flying is an invention from 2001.
Yeah.
Before that, you could show up at the airport 30 minutes before your flight, walk through the terminal to the gate, and just board the plane. Heck, you could buy a ticket at at the airport if you wanted to. You can't do that anymore. But it's the same with taxes, the same with your rights. It's little by little you're becoming more of a serf. I mean, at this point, I'd even argue that we're worse than serfs.
Yeah.
You know, I saw this post once, it cracked me up. It was showing the average apartment of someone living in is just a bland little shoebox, and they're showing the typical dwelling of a serf back in the Middle Ages, and it's legitimately a house. You know what I mean? Like, it's a house with some land. Sure, you have to work the land. It's not an easy life. There was diseases and whatnot, but I mean, for fuck's sakes, we're being told we're free today. But again, I think it's a better system in the sense that, one, you have the opportunity to elevate yourself, but it's also a better system, by the way, for the people in control and in power, because the best way to keep people docile is to give them an illusion of freedom. And every day we're here thinking we're getting ahead, the vast majority of people are not. And even if you're doing okay, I'm doing okay, you're doing okay, right? We're not wondering where our next meal is going to come from. But are we increasing, or is our quality of life, or does our outlook look better today than it did 20 years ago? Probably not.
Not in Canada.
Probably not.
The issue that I have as an entrepreneur is I always think that people are going to go, oh, bleeding heart, like, shut up. But this is just, you know, for other people that watch this who do like to follow business, I always think to myself, like, what are you doing here? You'd be making a lot more money if you went to a place that actually celebrated entrepreneurialism.
Yeah.
Even Alberta or in the United States, and just the amount of regulatory bodies that I have to deal with, the amount of taxes that I have to deal with. And not only that, so it's not even so much for me. Because of this business environment, I'm in insurance, there are also fewer businesses to insure. And the only thing that's actually propping up why insurance brokers tend to do very well is because of the barriers to entry in the industry.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to start your own insurance brokerage. And I would love it if the barriers to entry were smaller. But unless you have family money, and a lot of it, I'm not talking like $50,000. You want to start your own insurance brokerage from scratch? My grandfather, when he came to this country, started off in insurance. When he went off on his own, he had 7 kids to feed. He went into his garage, he pulled out a phone book, and he started cold calling people to sell them home and car insurance. And back then, there was no internet, right? So you had to go to their house, you had to get them to fill out the form, you had to send the form by mail, you had to get the price back. So it was not even close to as efficient as what it is today. He was still able to support his family. Did he work really hard? He did. You can't do that today. And it's a shame, but this just all comes back to red tape. Taxes are too high. The red tape is too high. And by red tape, I mean there's too many laws and rules and regulations.
Yeah.
That it's very difficult to maneuver as a business in Canada. And it benefits me in my current situation, but it doesn't benefit the country as a whole. I would love it if our industry, where people could actually start in their garage without needing $500,000 to start a business. That's crazy. This is not the Canada of 60 years ago.
And that's the hallmark of a good economy.
Yes.
It's where someone with an idea can make something happen. It's better for innovation, for the quality of life. By the way, where did your grandfather immigrate from?
Glasgow, Scotland.
No fucking way.
Yeah,
Scottish.
yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really,
Thick Scottish accent.
Those are the best.
Yeah,
My favorite.
Yeah, he's
my
not
favorite.
around anymore. My grandmother's still around though, but she has an accent. It's funny to listen. She's from Dundee.
Dundee.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Dundee,
I want to
it's
go to Scotland this year.
It's cool.
Yeah, maybe it can be part of the trip.
Sure,
we're gonna
yeah,
plan.
the trip we're gonna plan.
Boop,
Yeah.
We'll stop over.
Yeah.
You know, to add to what you're saying, by the way, you know, and there is a growing sentiment of disdain towards business owners and corporations in Canada. But, you know, something a lot of people forget, since, you know, it comes from people normally who love the social programs, who are mostly on a specific spectrum of political ideology, and they keep wanting a bigger state, more programs, and whatnot. Taxes, not a problem. Well, they're forgetting something, okay? And this one was eye-opening. When I started BizBiz and, you know, start having a few employees and having to, you know, take care of payroll, I started seeing the true cost of deductions or employer contribution. Some people, most employees don't know this, and it's wild. See, let's say I'm paying someone $50,000. That's not the cost of the salary to my business. It's actually going to be closer to $60,000 because there's going to be something called employer contributions. To name a few, first, there's going to be QPIP, that's Quebec Parental Insurance Plan. So the company funds the parental insurance plan in Quebec. There's going to be QPP, and in Canada, it's going to be CPP. That's Quebec Pension Plan or Canada Pension Plan. So we contribute as an employer to it as well. Then we're going to fund EI, employment insurance, so employers contribute to that as well. We fund something called FSS, Fonds de Santé, for some reason. Why does a corporation fund healthcare? Don't know, but it's one of the things we fund as a corporation. We got to pay insurance for healthcare, not for healthcare, but for OHS, their occupational health and safety. So we got the CNESST. So you got to pay the CNESST on top of that. All put together, you're looking at anywhere between, depending on the size, 7 to 15% additional cost on a salary.
Yeah.
And that's money, by the way, that goes towards programs. And here's how it doesn't benefit the people. See, if I had that extra 15%, I could have done one or two things: hired more people or given bigger raises. Now, most of the time, people are not going to give raises. I get that. That's on the corporate side. You're not looking to
I was
pay
about
people.
to play the devil's advocate and say, you're not going to do that. You're just going to keep it all for yourself.
And you're definitely right. I'm not going to give it necessarily. You know, the role of a company is obviously to maximize profit and lower expenses. Okay, sure. But one thing I can do, though, is reinvest it and hire more people because that's going to increase my productivity.
And also too, in like a competitive market, not a market that has an oligopoly, but a competitive market with lots of competitors. If you are underpaying your employees, they will go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And this is the trademark of a market that is not competitive. If you have few competitors in a market, yes, then they can for sure control the wages more, or they can control a market more because there's just fewer of them.
Yeah.
So that's just like the reality of how things work in Canada. But this is the other part where it's like, we do have a lot of oligopolies, a lot of industries with oligopolies. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Insurance 20 years ago was not an oligopoly. It's an oligopoly today. And they get away with certain things that they normally wouldn't get away with in a competitive environment.
Well, Canada as a whole is an oligopoly.
Yes.
You look at
telecom, grocery chains, banks, insurance companies,
airlines. It's Air Canada and WestJet.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, we're captive.
Yeah. And if you even look at the grocery chains, you have Walmart, what's the other one? Walmart, Loblaws, IGA, which is owned by someone else, Metro. Anyways, there's 4 or 5 that have 70% of the market. Yeah. And every year they get a little bit more because they just keep buying out these other
slowly but surely. Yeah. It's we're at a point where, again, we keep saying we're at a point. Yeah, we're past that point, I think.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, so, and then it brings me back to another thing too, that actually this one grinds my gears, not as a business owner, but as a private citizen, and it's the QPP or CPP scheme. All right. I weep every time I receive a paycheck. I weep knowing that 5, and now it's going to be even more, but 5% of my paycheck goes towards the QPP, the Quebec Pension
I have a
Plan.
question. I don't know if you know this. Do we pay the income tax plus the QPP or the CPP?
Yeah.
Okay, so the income tax is like this. This is on the side. It's not included in the income tax.
It's on the side. It's a different line item.
Oh,
So
God.
so when you pay on your paycheck. So the average worker is going to have provincial income tax, federal income tax,
Mm-hmm.
CPP or QPP,
Mm.
EI, and QPIP.
Mm.
And then if they have a union dues as well. All right. So that's normally the line items on a payroll deduction.
And it's 5% of the.
It's a little bit
Well,
more.
but we just went through with the numbers. So
Yeah,
it's basically,
so-
so here I have it right here. So someone making 85 grand would be 8,860. Half of it's paid by the employer. Half of it, so it's like 10%, half paid roughly.
Yeah.
10%, half paid by the employer.
But
half
it's
paid by the employee.
exactly. So it's half and half, right?
Yeah.
So roughly 5%. It's actually stated to increase because there are increased schedules because the fund is going to be insolvent if we don't.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why I weep every time I receive a paycheck, knowing that 5%, soon to be 6% of my money goes towards funding that. And I'll tell you why. It's my fucking money. If I want to use it, like right now, you and I have contributed to our QPP and me a little bit of CPP when I worked in Alberta for what? Let's say you start working at 18, even if it's just odd jobs, partial time, right? 15 years of our life, we funded that. There's money right now in our name under our social insurance number that belongs to us. You don't have access to it. I don't have access to it. Tomorrow you want to fund your business, or heck, let's say you're running a small business and you run into some hard times. You need access to cash. You're willing to take the risk of taking your retirement funds. You can't. You have an idea. You want to start a company. You need access to capital. You can't touch it. Or heck, maybe you just have a different risk profile. Maybe your risk tolerance is higher and you want to invest and risk your assets with the potential of a greater return. Or you just simply don't agree with the investment strategy of la Caisse de Placement et Dépôt du Québec. They're the ones who manage the QPP. Or even worse, you don't agree with the million upon million of dollars that they spend staffing their offices, having analysts look at how they should invest their money, the horrible investments they do. It cracks me up. There is a pension fund in the U.S. I don't remember which state, but it's run by a state or by like a union of people and like teachers, let's say, for example. And it's staffed and run by one guy.
Nevada.
It's Nevada?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just does the S&P.
Because
That's all he does.
That's all he does.
He just buys the S&P.
He buys the S&P. It's a
Yeah.
passive
I think
fund.
they hired one more person. I think it's at 2 now.
They're at 2.
Yeah.
They doubled the workforce. What the fuck?
What are they going to do when he's not there?
Yeah. And and you know what the wild thing is? It's outperformed.
I know. The
Ev-
pension funds by it's not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah.
It's outperformed them.
Yeah.
Because in the end, the market over time outperforms any hedge fund, any
Yeah.
manager.
9
any
out of
mutual-
10. 9 out of 10. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? On a long enough timeline, I think it's all of them.
Maybe, unless you're like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's like but the stat is this is the stat that I've had is basically you're better off over a long time horizon. I think it's 10 years or over. Even putting your money with a money manager because they have to take their commission. So I'm talking
Yeah.
net because they take
Yeah,
their
yeah, yeah,
commissions,
yeah.
they take their management fees and all that stuff. You have a 90% chance. The market has a 90% chance of beating this fund manager. And it's a completely passive investment.
Yep.
You dump money into the S&P 500. When you get some more cash, you just keep buying it again and again and
And
again.
you reinvest the
Yeah,
dividends.
and you don't even look at it. Just buy the damn index.
And what if someone just wants to YOLO their fucking money? You know, they're
Yeah.
like, I don't want to worry about my what's gonna happen when I'm 80. Fuck it, let me just YOLO my fucking money. Who
Yeah.
cares? It's their money. You earned it.
Like back in the day, people used to be fucking ashamed to take welfare.
They used to, but you know, the problem is this: you need a reset. Like I mean,
Yeah.
because I also do understand these people, and it's true. A lot of people are just really in the gutters. They're fucked.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, are they just, I guess, collateral damage? We let them die. I mean,
Well, I think people too, they become like zombies, and it's especially for men, women too, but especially for men to have a purpose, go to work.
Yep.
Feel like they're contributing to something very, very, very important for their mental health.
Yeah, big time. That's a point where even, you know what, that's a fucking interesting point. I don't remember who said that. Maybe it was Peterson, maybe it was another guy. But the way we deal with therapy right now and mental health is very good for women, horrible for men.
Yeah.
Because men, the more we talk about our problems, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
We're not looking to vent. We need a solution.
Yes.
And if we're working towards a solution, we're good. We don't have any problems.
I'm kind of one of those, I guess you could say old school, not that I'm old, but it's like, shut up and do it.
Yeah.
and no one cares about your feelings. Like
And-
literally, no one cares. So
No.
stop talking about.
I mean,
it.
there's a few people that do, your mom, your dad, and that's fucking
Yeah,
it.
but it's like you're a man. You have duties. Just shut up and be a man.
Yeah.
Get up and go do it.
That's it.
All this soft stuff, like we've definitely. But I also too. This is why there's a backlash against liberalism or modern day liberalism. I shouldn't say classical liberalism, but this is why, and in particular amongst young boys, why they're all shifting to conservatives. Like boys under the age of 24, they're conservative. It's the biggest
Yeah.
cohort now.
But the reason why, look, men, like you said, and it's so true, we need to have a purpose. We're not looking for handouts. The average guy does not look for a handout. We want to
No.
be masters of our own universe,
Yes.
but we want to have the opportunity.
Yes.
All right. And when we feel like a system is hell bent on keeping us grounded or shackled or whatnot, eventually a sense of helplessness comes about, and depression as well. Right. Most guys that have a purpose in life are not depressed.
No.
Like, if you feel like you're getting up in the morning and working towards something, you're not going to be depressed. I also do believe depression is mostly fucking blown up for,
Do you ever see what Trump said about depression? How to solve depression?
Trump
He
said-
this is like, this is recently, like, so at his rally, he goes, depression. He goes, you want to know how you solve depression? This isn't one of his rallies. He's speaking to everyone. Do you want to know how you solve depression? Everyone's like, why? He goes, work your ass off.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he's not wrong.
He's
you know what I mean?
right.
It's like
it's true.
An idle mind is the devil's workshop. Keep yourself busy. It's important to keep yourself busy, whether that's exercise, whether that's work, whether that's spending time with your family. But go and do shit. We're not built to sit in front of a computer or sit in front of Netflix, the television, all day, every day. We're meant to be, we're hunter-gatherers. I don't care what people say. Well, it's modern day men, and it's not 5,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. It's like, no, we still have like.
So what? The reality, society's evolved. You're hardwired genetically. You're the exact same as you were 20, 50, heck, 200,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Homo sapiens branched off 200,000 years ago. You're
Yeah.
still a Homo sapien. I'm still a Homo sapien.
Yeah.
Our fucking primate brains are exact same as they were 50,000 years ago.
Why do you think you feel so good after a workout?
Yeah. Heck, even
Or why do you think you feel good after sex? Why do you think you feel good after eating? Why do you think you're
I weep after. I cry.
But no, it's because there's all these our instincts
Mm-hmm.
are like, our brain is saying, hey, go get more of this, because this is why we still exist today, in order to like reproduce, in order to survive by eating, in order to survive by hunting.
Here's an interesting thing, Dave, and that study blew my mind. This affects mostly men, not as much women, but there is a marked reduction in cortisol level and stress hormones in men when they walk through the meat aisle at a grocery store. The simple sight of flesh, of meat, lowers your stress response.
Really?
And it's not as pronounced in women.
Huh.
And again,
Just
like
meat?
meat. That's it. No other foods.
I guess because
Meat.
everything else is like processed. It's not.
It's not even why. It's because, again, evolutionarily speaking, men were the hunters, right? And when you see blood, meat, flesh, it signifies a successful hunt, a successful bounty, plenty of food for the tribe and for yourself. You can now relax. You can now let go for a bit. Women were not historically the ones, and I say historically, but genetically as well, the ones who would hunt as much. But here's another interesting facts. Women have better color perception than men. They see more shades of color than men do, right? Hence why you and I, like, a girl's going to talk to us and ask us, like, which red do you like, your girlfriend, whatever, which red do you like?
Yeah.
You're like, it's the same fucking red to me, but it's not
And
because
we also don't care.
well, we don't care. But the reason we don't care is because we can't even tell the difference anyways,
Yeah.
right? No, for real, I can't tell the difference between a fucking fuchsia pink and freaking light hot pink, whatever. It's all pink to me.
I remember learning this, and sorry to cut you off, but from school. So the GAD-SAD class, this great class called Evolutionary Psychology, was for marketing. And I'll never forget this. So why do, according to GAD-SAD, he's a very smart man, Elon Musk has promoted his books as well, why do men like the color red, like on a woman, especially like red lips?
Well, it's a sexual response.
Yes, it's but a sexual response, and for I'll never forget these words. I still remember this is from like 2009. It resembles engorged genitalia. So it's like if you're with a girl and she's aroused, it's gonna
It's gonna be more red.
because there's like blood rushing to it. So
Right,
it's
of
like
course.
so when you see a lipstick on a woman, like for men, especially if it's like a pretty girl and she puts red lipstick on, it's like, oh shit, like I like that a lot. And you don't know why. You're just like, I like that.
Human beings are the greatest if-then machine. Any developer is going to understand that. If X, then Y,
Yeah.
right? So it's all about stimuli response. Same thing with the meat in the grocery aisle, right? You see it, you feel that. So red.
Come to think of it, I do love steak. I do love meat. And when I walk around, I'm like, damn, that looks like a good piece of meat.
But again, it's an evolutionary response. It just signifies that now you've successfully hunted, you can relax, and that's why you feel good. So we're, humans are like that. And once you understand a little bit about evolutionary psychology, it's such a hack for the rest of life, honestly.
Yeah.
Whether it's business or whether it's, freaking romance, you name it, even just friendship. You just understand how people work and how the human, it's like a lot of people think we have free will to a certain extent, and we do. But a lot of what happens is hardwired in you. You don't have a choice. You can't just be like, I don't want to have lower levels of cortisol when I walk through the meat aisle. It even happens in vegans. I'm sorry, vegans. It still happens in you. And by the way, just so you guys know, most vegans quit veganism within 5 years. So, but anyways, that's not our point. Going just real quick to the QPP.
So let's finish up this QPP.
The QPP, another reason why I weep, okay? It's not just the cost of it behind it. It's just, again, it takes away options and opportunity for people. I spoke about, for example, not having access to your money to fund business or ideas, or maybe even just emergency money. You need a surgery. Your life's at risk, and there's no because of our great public system, there is no solution or cure or treatment being offered in Quebec or Canada. You want to go abroad. You want to go to the U.S. or heck, China. It doesn't matter where you want to go. You want to pay for it out of pocket, and that's the money you have. You're not allowed to access it. Too bad. You die. Good, it goes back to the state. Or even worse, let's say you're the type of person, not worse, but just different. You're the type of person that's just full-blown YOLO. You don't care about the future. You don't care about planning for later on in life. You don't even plan to be alive later on. You just want to use your money right now, today. So be it. It's your money. You earned it. You worked for it. Do what you want with it. And that's why I weep. And this leads to the good old nanny state. The state will say, yeah, but we have to take care of you. We're there to protect you from yourself. And although I'm sure altruistically speaking, it's nice, it's a nice gesture, it leads overall, I think, society down a path where we become so reliant on that state, so dependent on it. It builds that philosophy of like, I don't have to worry about myself.
But I would even go as far as saying that it does create dependence for the common man, but at the same time, it gives a lot of power to the people that are actually running the system.
Of course it does.
And if you look at just read a history book, like socialism eventually or take communism, take socialism. It's like, and this is one thing I never understand about Canadians. The average Canadian, I would say, doesn't really trust the institution of a corporation. However, they trust a lot more the institution of government. But my logic is, guys, it's just another group of people that are after power.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like if you take a company like Google or you take a company like Apple, they have more money than they know what to do with. Money doesn't matter anymore. When you're making $25 billion in profit in a quarter, money has no meaning, zero.
Yeah.
And so they're in it. It's a different game. Like the guy for NVIDIA, he's on a mission, but it's power, it's influence. So at the end of the day, like the institution of the corporation, the institution of the church back in the day, the institution of government, they're all after the same thing. They're all after power. And so I just find that people kind of forget that, and they have all this trust in government. Government does a really good job in spewing out this propaganda to say, hey, trust me, they're the evil people over there. But at the end of the day, it's just a group of people that are making rules and regulations for how you're supposed to live. So yeah, we do have too much trust in government, and we've allowed them to kind of encroach on our rights and our civil liberties, like here in Canada.
Yeah.
And we're at a point now today, we keep harping on this. It's like, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Just stop.
Imagine being a grown man and looking at everything and being like, yeah, tax me more.
Yeah.
There are men and women, but like I'm thinking on a man, like again, like be a man. Jesus fuck, you want people to tax you? Like you're telling me you love being taxed? Yeah, but if it only helps, it doesn't. It doesn't help anyone.
Anyone who has a good job doesn't agree with that.
Anyway.
And it's because they're like benefiting from other people paying taxes. And it's just like socialists, the issue with socialists is the following. They love to tax other people's money.
Always.
If it's them, so if you were to basically look at from how much money someone in Canada has compared to the average person in the world, a poor person in Canada would be a rich person in Uganda, as an example. So it's like, okay, well, you're actually technically rich if we look at it in the aggregate of the entire world's population. So
Yeah.
you know what? We're going to have an international tax. You're actually going to have to pay this. We're going to send it off to Uganda. They'll change their tune in 2 seconds.
Oh, big time. Real fast.
Yes.
Well,
So
it's like, man, I saw a video. It was these guys. They were shooting a reel, and they were going around these super wealthy Democrat neighborhoods.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yeah, right. Saying like, okay, do you support like, you know, these immigrants, you know, come in here, you know, illegal immigrants, by the way. I'm not saying immigrants, but like, you know, illegal aliens come into
Yeah.
the U.S. Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
I do. Well, perfect. Have a bus full
Yeah,
right
the,
here.
The Nelk boys did that.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like, yeah, come on in. And they're like, oh, well, it's like, you know, it's basically put them over there. Just don't have them in my house.
There you go. That's all
Don't
I'm
have
saying.
them in my gated community. But
Or on this one, crack me up too. Going around a college campus, do you believe that there should be reparations for slavery? And you know, the kids, the guys, or whatever, they'd be like, "Yeah, of course, I believe in reparations." Well, perfect. And then this black guy comes with a jar. You know, you can start right now.
Pay me right now.
Pay me right now. How much money is enough for the suffering? It might be.
Yeah.
It's like fuck it. They don't want to do it.
People are hypocrites, and it kind of
100%.
comes back to the same point. It's like they're, as long as it doesn't affect them personally, they have no problem with other people paying it. And this is like the big issue with socialism. But just to kind of like, if we want to wrap this up, it's I think, you know, Canada as a whole needs to, number one, we need to shrink the size of government. It's gotten too big.
Yeah.
We need to have less regulation. We need to have less red tape. We need to cool it on immigration, and we need to vet the immigrants that are coming in. I want to bring the best of the best over to Canada.
It used to be that way.
Yeah, we had a great immigration system until 10 years ago.
Yep.
So like we were actually like the envy of the immigration system.
Heck, we even have Trump,
Yeah.
out of all people, who used Canada back in the day as
Yes.
an example
Yes.
for having a merit-based immigration system.
Yes, and we used like this was not controversial 10 years ago, and for someone, you know, like 10 years ago, you could walk through the city of Toronto and like people were blind to race. Today, like all they talk about is race and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so this wokeism has brought a hypersensitivity to race and other issues as well. I'm
Yeah.
happy the pendulum's swinging the other way. We know what we need to do to get fixed. I'm not sure if it's going to be as easy as we think. Yes, we're most likely going to have a conservative federal government that's going to come in the next election, whether that's in March or whether that's in October, whenever. But the municipalities are progressive. Our educational institutions are progressive. They've been captured by this woke mind virus. I'm not entirely I don't think it's going to be very easy to fix this, but we got a lot of work ahead of us in Canada for how bad things are broken. And the only people, my last point, the only people that don't want things to change in Canada are the boomers. They're apolitical, so I'm not going to blame them. But hey, my stock market portfolio up, value of my home doubled. I don't work. I got more money than I know what to do with.
Yeah.
I don't really care. Things are great. I'll vote Liberal again.
Yep.
I can't blame them. And they watch CBC because CBC 40 years ago was a completely different institution than what it is today. They actually covered the news. So they've been CBC, like no one our age watches CBC or any legacy media for that matter. So I'm not blaming the boomers. You know, some of them who, if you follow politics, you'll understand. But people our age are seeing through this. We're like, hey, I can't afford a house.
Yeah. But yet, there's a lot of people our age. They can't afford a house, but they're not willing to. Look, at this point, the damage is done. The only way to go through this is going to have to go through some levels of suffering. There's going to be a room always gets messier before it gets cleaner. That's a quote that I love, right? You want to clean your room, it's going to get messier first before it gets cleaner. There's no way out of this without some suffering. And I'm, in a way, maybe even going to say glad the last 9-10 years has been the way it is. Because it's only once you're at the precipice that people truly find the will to change. And we're going to need to change big time in this country.
What's the saying? You'll change when the pain of suffering becomes greater than the pain of change.
Yeah.
I think we're getting there.
That was a good way to we wrap it up like that?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up like that. Thanks,
Beautiful.
Elliot, as always.
Yeah, man. See you
Happy
next
New
week.
Year, everyone.